This shoe is one of those rare occasions where, for me, the Super Trainer may work better than the Super Shoe. Meet the Mizuno Wave Rebellion Flash 2. What's up everybody, I'm Eric McIntyre, aka Rad Dad Bod. You're watching Rad Dad Bod TV, where we review running shoes. Today we're going to be reviewing the Wave Rebellion Flash 2, and if it's your first time watching one of my videos, you may notice some timestamps below in that description. Feel free to jump around to the various parts of the review, but if you do so, I would sure appreciate it if you come back and watch the full thing when you get a sec, as I put a lot of time and effort into these videos. And if you're not already subscribed, please hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications so you get notified every time I drop a new video, which is typically Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but to start off 2025, we've been doing daily videos. And if you like what you see today, hit that like button and drop a comment. Tell me what you enjoyed or what you'd like to see more of. Now, as always, I'll go over some disclaimers and disclosures, which for this shoe, I actually did purchase this one with my own money, but I got a discount from my local running store as I've done some content for them in the past. And one more disclaimer, you may notice that I say Mizuno. This is because I'm half Japanese and I actually lived 10 plus years in Japan. Mizuno is the name of the brand and is actually the last name of the founder and the current CEO and president. So that is actually how you pronounce the brand in Japan, but I understand that here in the US, many people pronounce it Mizuno. I'm not gonna say that's necessarily wrong, but that is the Americanized version of the name. Now with that out of the way, let's talk about the intended use of this shoe. Now I'd probably categorize this shoe as a super trainer or just a plated trainer for the most part. Basically, the purpose of this shoe is to act as the training companion to the Super Shoe, where you're going to be doing the bulk of your long marathon sessions, the bulk of your speed sessions, the bulk of just kind of the quality work within a marathon training block in this shoe. Therefore, it's going to be a little bit more durable, a little bit more robust, because it's made to handle a little bit more mileage and a little bit more beating, but it keeps your race shoes fresh. As such, that's how we're going to be evaluating the shoe today. The shoe comes in at $170, which is pretty typical for this type of shoe. Some shoes like these lighter weight plated trainers will go all the way up to like $200. So $170, while not budget, is very, very reasonable for this use case. From a specs perspective, the shoe comes in at 8.4 ounces, which is 238 grams, and it has a stack height in the heel of 47 and a 46.5 millimeter stack in the forefoot for only a 0.5 millimeter heel to toe drop. Now, another disclaimer here is that I got those specs from Running Warehouse because I understand that they measured those independently, but Mizuno may report differently on their website. Now, from a weight perspective, that's neither heavy nor necessarily light for this type of shoe. Plated trainers tend to have a really wide range as far as weight goes, and it really comes down to more sensation on foot. Now, speaking of on foot, I found that this shoe fit true to size lengthwise, but that it fit fairly snug in that midfoot. The toe box is pretty standard fitting for me, and the heel is probably the same, but I would say that this is a narrower fitting shoe overall, so please be aware of that if you're considering the shoe. Now moving to the upper, we have an engineered mesh, which is fairly breathable overall. You kind of have this scratchy, it's like a dual layer mesh, so it's going to be a little bit more durable than some other meshes out there on the market. And again, I believe this is intentional so that the shoe can handle a little bit more of a beating and isn't really going to tear on you. And then from there, you have some decent structure. So you actually have a strong structured heel cup right there. You have some minimal but available padding there kind of in the heel. And then when you look at the tongue, this is a little bit frustrating for me, but it is not gusseted and it's just kind of a thin layer. So if you were to do a runner's knot, which I did not need on the shoe in particular, then you may feel that that tongue is a little bit short as the laces may come up a little bit high for you. Now for me, I didn't need the runner's knot and I felt like the lockdown in the shoe was really, really well. So I was not slipping or sliding around. That being said, something about the shoe, again, it's not necessarily the length. I don't know if it's the geometry of the toe box, but my nails did get smashed a little bit at times in this shoe, and maybe it's when I was just picking up the pace, as this can go pretty fast. My feet were shifting and I just wasn't really noticing it in the moment. Overall though, I do like the upper, and I just wish that the tongue was gusseted because it gives additional lockdown and comfort when a shoe does have a full gusset, and then it just reduces some of this tongue moving around a little bit, as when you first put on the shoe, you may have to adjust the tongue so that it doesn't bunch or fold or anything like that on you. Now, despite having a somewhat rigid kind of heel cup there, and then really like surprisingly rigid right here around the ankle bones, I did not have any discomfort in that heel or ankle area whatsoever. Moving to the midsole, you have a couple of components here. So first you have this top layer of Mizuno Energy Light Plus, which is a PEBA based foam. Then you have a fiberglass plate, which runs through the large majority of the midsole. I believe it is full length from what I can tell. And then here on the bottom, you have a more supportive TPE based foam that is just Mizuno Energy, right? No light, no plus, anything like that, just Mizuno Energy. Now this is pretty typical in this type of shoe. Basically what that does is it gives you a more responsive ride, a bouncier ride there up top. You're getting good feedback, you're getting good turnover, good pop off the ground. You have a little bit of structure with that plate, right? But it's not gonna be super, super rigid. It's gonna be a little bit more flexible. But then you have that nice supportive foam on the bottom, which is going to aid in a little bit more control, a little bit more stability overall. Now, I will say, given the geometry of the shoe, obviously you can see that there's a pretty crazy rocker there. It's not as much as the Pro, but the shoe is a little bit unstable. Just with the nature of the shoe, I don't feel like you're gonna be very comfortable if you are a heel striker. But there is some surprising pace versatility with this shoe. So I took it out, for example, today I did a long run where I had, you know, tempo paces. I had some kind of moderate pace in there as well, and then some easy pace kind of in the warm up and cool down. And I didn't change my shoes. I just wore this straight through the entire long run. And so it felt comfortable at easy, even though that's not where I would use it. Like, this is definitely not a daily trainer by any means, but it really had a good range there of where it was going to feel comfortable and where I could use it. But I think its best use case, or where it feels most comfortable, is kind of in that tempo threshold zone. So long run workouts are a great place to use this shoe for me, which makes sense again, because a lot of the marathon specific workouts are going to be kind of long run workouts with marathon pace or faster within it. Overall though, the shoe looks really, really aggressive because of that geometry, and it really is a little bit more of a cruiser, but one that is nimble. I've done pickups, I've done cut downs, pyramid workouts, all those different types of things, just a lot of multi-pace stuff in this shoe. And I think it's really, really versatile and can handle that, and that's where I enjoy it. Now, moving to the outsole, you have pretty full coverage there, and it's a pretty thick outsole for a speed-oriented shoe, and it's a G3 rubber. And honestly, it's one of the better outsoles overall if you're going to be training with some slicker, like wet road. I'm here in Utah, and so we've had lots of snow, lots of rain as of late, and this midsole has done a phenomenal job. I have never really slipped in this shoe, and I feel like it's really holding its own. I've got about 30 or so miles on the shoe. The one place that I do see kind of on that lateral end right there, I'm not sure how well you can see coming through on the camera, but there is some wear and tear there. And so, you know, it's a thicker outsole, so it's gonna hold up, so I'm not concerned. But I am surprised a little bit to see how much it's kind of ground down there on that lateral end. And looking at the other shoe, again, that's, yeah, where the majority of wear and tear is going to be, but it's not quite as prominent for me on the right side, more so on my left shoe. But again, as someone who is a little bit of a midfoot striker, but on longer runs, maybe I might be defaulting to my heel. That makes a little bit of sense that that's where I'm going to be feeling it more towards the back of the shoe. All in all though, I do love the compound that Mizuno uses. It really, really tends to stick to the roads and gives me the confidence to pick up my pace despite the aggressive geometry. Now, as far as who's this shoe for, really this is going to be a speed-oriented shoe. And if I had to be honest, this isn't a shoe that I thought was going to be for me necessarily. I would have thought that this was like, kind of like the Wave Rebellion Pro. I would have thought, hey, this is like a really aggressive, like professional runner level shoe, to be honest. And the level of aggressiveness is so different in the Flash, where I think a lot of people probably slept on the shoe. Maybe it's because the geometry or the shoe looked a little bit funky, and so they just didn't want to take a risk. Maybe it's because there was some shoes out there like the Endorphin Speed or the Mach X that was getting a little bit more hype in that same category. But I regret not putting miles on this shoe earlier, because thinking of 2024 and plated trainer releases, the Endorphin Speed was my #1. This is in contention for my #2. I still would take the Endorphin Speed personally over this for #1, but this is a really, really nice shoe, and it's carried me through some pretty tough workouts over the last few weeks. And I was really like kind of shocked when I got this on foot and got it moving at how comfortable and how well it fit my foot. So as far as, like I said, who is it for? I don't have a specific category. But I do think more people could benefit from this shoe or would really enjoy this shoe, and they're maybe defaulting to the plated trainer of the brand that they're comfortable with. But plated trainers are often very unique and not really similar to the daily trainer models that the brands have. And so I think it's worth branching out and giving things a shot to find what you might like in that faster, more aggressive category. So just some final thoughts to wrap this one up. Overall, really, really impressed. Like I said, this may have ended up being my #2 plated trainer of 2024 had I run in it in 2024. I'd have to go back and look and maybe do a couple of refresher runs in a couple of shoes to be sure, but it's definitely up there. It is a competitive option in that plated trainer category, and many people like myself probably wrote it off for a number of reasons, and I regret doing that. So if you have a chance to snag these, I don't believe they are updating in 2025. I could be wrong on that though. At least at TRE, I didn't see any details about a Wave Rebellion Flash 3, though it wouldn't surprise me if one was coming later this year or maybe next year. But if you can snag a pair, especially if you can snag a pair on sale, I do think it's a worthy option, and I do think it could be a good shorter distance race shoe for a lot of people. Now, if you stuck around this far, I appreciate you. Please take a second, let me know in the comments what you enjoyed about this review, and hit that like button, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so again you get notified every time I drop a new video. And just to round us out, as always, I'll leave you with a question, which is, what is the most surprising shoe that you've tried in the last few months? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks everybody.